welcome to Raconteurs News.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday night on Raconteurs News. I'm Andy Young, this is Raconteurs News, and as always I'm joined by my trusty sidekick Jason. How you doing, Jace?
I'm very well, thank you, Andy, and how are you? It's a lovely evening, isn't it? I mean, this is the first time I think we've had some sun in quite a while. Like it's the summer of rain, but not today. Yeah. But I'm reliably informed it'll be back tomorrow.
Ah, right. I just thought it's because we'd had a visit from Kev Mark and he just brought the sunshine with him like he normally does, you know. But
well, he takes the sunshine everywhere he goes, doesn't he, Kev Mark? I mean, you can't take sunshine away from him.
Yeah, well, I think he's only got that cape to stop people realising that it actually shines out of his backside. But poor old Kev, we shouldn't give him some stick. He's not here to defend himself. He's on the road, so. Anyway, without further ado, we've got a great evening lined up for you. I know that Doc Rock's got another fantastic guest lined up at 9 o'clock, so stay tuned for that one. But in the meantime, we've got a gentleman who we touched base with a little while ago, and he's been having an awful lot of issues with his mortgage and has been pursuing it through the courts. So I'd like to give a big, warm Raconteurs News welcome to Mike Sinclair. Good evening, Mike.
Hi, good evening, Andy. All right.
Evening, Mike.
Good evening, Jason. How are you? All right?
Yeah, we're all good over here. Whereabouts are you in country, Mike?
I would say I'm in the centre of London, and the reason for saying that will come evident a bit later on.
Okay, so London. We'll say the London area then, yeah?
Yeah. Let's just say I had an incident with my car and an illness which no one could explain, which people will become aware of as the evening goes on and they find out about what these issues are about.
Oh, crikey. Well, we've got a great lineup in the chat room. There's Luby Lou, Dr. Rock, Keno's over there in Spain. That means Susie's listening as well, hopefully. We've got Patrick over in Ireland. We've got Rob Freeman. Good evening, Rob. And we also got Sturm in the chat room at the moment. So no doubt there'll be a few questions fired at you, Mike. But would you like to introduce us to your story and tell us how it all started off for you, please?
Yeah, it started off, I used to have a house in Luton. It's actually on the website and YouTube, Rumble of Boots. We got behind with our mortgage because I had an accident at work and was off work for 2 years. Obviously, we were struggling to pay the mortgage and obviously keep our head above water. The company called Mortgages were well aware of this, and because of the structure that we later found out about, had no way of coming to any agreement with us or anything else. Their main purpose was to sell the property and get the money back as quickly as possible.
Okay, I want to just sort of slow down. I'm coming from a position where I'm not really I don't know very much about your case, and I've not seen very much about it. I do. When you say Luton, I do recognise a couple of YouTube videos that I've watched. So can you sort of, you lived in Luton and you're working and you have an accident. Were you self-employed?
At that time, I was working as a subcontractor for the company. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're essentially self-employed. So if you're not working, you're not earning, are you? So you got into some difficulty with the mortgage on your house, and it was in Luton as well. I mean, what sort of mortgage payments are we looking at?
We're only looking at £736. I was on a 4% interest rate mortgage. The DHSS, as it was then, are supposed to pay the mortgage at up to 6% interest on payments, which they failed to do.
Yeah, they pay the interest only, don't they? They'll pay the interest on the mortgage, and they failed to do that, didn't they?
Having said that, they failed to do it. Accord Mortgages actually wrote and said that we were only on a 2% interest rate. So they were only getting 2% of a 4% interest. So we were always behind.
Right.
They subsequently, when it came out in court, said that it was a clerical error and they will revert the mortgage back to what it was and the payments that it was. But that never happened.
Okay. And you ended up having you ended up having an accident, or you were injured, and you could no longer work. Am I correct?
Yeah, I was off for 2 years.
So you had 2 years off. And in that time, what sort of income did you have? Were you dependent on benefits, or
That was it.
Benefits? You had no insurance or anything like that in place, you know.
The company that I worked for was Threshers. They were supposed to have public liability insurance. They hadn't paid that insurance for 6 months prior to me having my accident. They went bust in December, owing the taxman, the insurance companies, vehicle hires, everybody 15 million quid. So I was just low down the line of anybody that was going to get anything.
So you're talking about Threshers, the
Wine merchants. Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay. So you work for them. You're working as a subcontractor. You have an accident. They've not been paying their public liability insurance, and so there's no way you can get a claim or anything like that involved. No, so you're left really holding your dick in the wind with for 2 years, and trying to make payments on your mortgage. I'm assuming you tried to make payments on your mortgage, but it then became impossible.
Oh yeah, we were paying like 400, then 600, and like 700 when money was sort of like available. We sold things that we could sell just to keep it going, and then there comes a stage where it's just a cut off, and you just can't continue anymore.
So how long before you got into trouble where the bank? Who did you say it was?
Oh, it was called mortgages.
Mortgages.
It's called. They're part of Yorkshire Building Society. They're what they call intermediaries. They go through brokers. So I will say we had a house that was worth 270,000, and we only had a mortgage of 160. So you could see their interest in getting their hands on the rest of that money was far too great for them.
And so, how long after your injury? How long did it take before you started to receive threats to
6 months.
I don't know why they can say repossess the house, because they never possessed it in the first place.
No.
Take possession of your house.
Oh, it was literally 5 months after the accident.
Okay.
Well, you raised an interesting thing there about the repossession. How can they repossess it when you don't have it? And that was an interesting thing that was talked about at some length by Roger Hayes when we went up to Liverpool there, and he was saying the reason they use repossession is because they're using the wrong statutes. The repossession is not about what they're trying to do. The repossession is somewhat, for argument's sake, if you went on your holidays and come back and you got squatters in there, you would make moves to repossess your house. And the banks are using the incorrect legislation to steal people's homes off them.
Well, in our particular case, it wasn't. It was the attitude. Obviously, I had my accident. I was laid up, and all we were getting was threatening phone calls and letters, literally on an hourly basis. The phone calls were coming, and I just got my back up, and I started to dig my heels in, and that's when they issued a county court summons over online, which means they don't have to present any evidence or pay any fees or anything else. It's all done via some office in Northampton. And we started to question it. We had a court hearing, and I turned up in a wheelchair with drips on a stand. And the judge nearly had a heart attack and said, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, well, they're going to repossess my home. I've had to come to defend my home. He was not a happy bunny. He said, no, I'm going to adjourn it for another 6 months, go away and come back in June. So we went away. We still tried to maintain some form of payments to them, but obviously, as I'll come to later with these documents, they have no control over how things progress. They've sold all their rights to someone else. So it's the other companies that pull the strings, and they have to follow suit. We went to court in June 2013, and the only honest judge that we've ever met at Luton County Court, District Judge White, made an order, because he had the documents, which I'll talk about a bit later on, of a mortgage sale agreement, which means they sold all their rights, benefits and interest in my mortgage to brass number one, with full title guarantee, which means they cannot split the equitable or beneficial interest or do anything whatsoever. They've sold it as a true sale. And he made an order that an officer of the company, and make no bones about it, it's got to be an officer of the claimant company, to come and make an affidavit, the true position of that mortgage. That was done on the 24th of June 2013.
And that was an order from a judge, did you say?
That was an order by District Judge White, made at 14:35, because he's timed it, that they present a letter or an affidavit from a director of the company, and make no bones about it, it's got to be a director of the company, which is the only director, called Ian Bullock, of what the true nature of the mortgage is. To this date, we've never, ever had that, after asking 8 times. Now, an order from a court should be complied with. So why on earth do you think that that's never complied with? Because it's not going to commit perjury. Because the documents I sent you, Andy, I mean, it's taken me 8 years to get my head around these. And they do your head in. They're legalese crap trap. I mean, if you just go to the mortgage sale agreement, at number 2, it says the sale and purchase of the portfolio. The default shall have occurred when kissing the closing date. The seller hereby agrees to sell to the issuer, which is brass number 1, with full title guarantee, or in the case of the Scottish loans and their related security, complies in the portfolio with absolute warrants to the issuer, all its rights, title, interest and benefit on the closing date in consideration of the purchase price. So there's one of the conditions for a perfection of the sale. They've had the purchase price.
Okay, so I just want to sort of, before we get into paperwork and stuff like that, I just want to sort of put some meat on the bones of this story. And so how long did it take before, and what happened when they came to repossess? Did you try and prevent them from repossessing?
Oh, we appealed decisions, and I will say that after that hearing on the 24th of June 2013, we never went before that judge again. we went before the property tribunal, and we had some advice which wasn't really correct advice, and it wasn't really beneficial to us. The only thing that really done the judge in, Miss Anne McAllister, was that the securitisation. We pushed on that and said that these people don't own our mortgage. They've sold their interests. Therefore, they're not the right party to stand here before you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting. You never got that judge again. The judge that asked for the.
No, we never got White again, and I bumped into White. We had about another 5 hearings after that date before they got possession, and I bumped into him must be twice in the court. And on the second time, we had a hearing that day before a Deputy District Judge Arnold. Now, I'm saying these names. Arnold made an order because they were out of time with their claim after 6 years. They've got to restart it.
Mm-hmm.
He turned around and said, "Oh, no, we're not going to put the company through that process. They could just issue their orders again." He signed his order as Arnold, gave me a copy of that order. When I get the order from the Luton County Court, whose name's on there? Deputy District Judge White. I never saw him. So how come his order was not the order that he gave? So I saw him on the 6th hearing in the hall. And he said to me, "Hello, how are you?" And I said, "Don't talk to me. You've done an order that you never even saw me." And he's, "What do you mean?" And I told him about this Deputy District Judge Arnold and the order that he had made. And when the order came from the Luton County Court, it was his name that did the order. Well, I've seen people angry, but I've never seen him so angry. He's stormed out of that place to go upstairs. So I think words were said up there. Now, I mentioned District Judge Arnold, and I mentioned District Judge Sims, and I mentioned District Judge Abbott. None of those judges are registered to hear cases at Luton County Court.
Mm.
Oh, that sounds well dodgy, Mike. We've actually got a question for you here, if I can just jump in
sure.
there, from Rob Freeman in the chat room. And Rob is asking, Mike, have you come across District Judge Richard Clark at Luton? Because we're dealing with him.
What's his name? Clark?
Yes.
If you just give me a second, I'll tell you actually whether he's actually a judge of that court.
Ah, right.
Because stupidly enough, we made a complaint to the Judiciary Commission's office, who then sent us a list of judges that are registered at Luton County Court. Does he know the initial of the guy?
Judge Richard Clark.
Richard Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Is that with an E or without?
It's
With
Clark,
an E.
Clark with an E, yeah. Clarke.
Just put my glasses on. Because they sent me a list of the judges that are licensed to sit there. Clark. Richard Clark, Midland. Well, no, he's the Midland division.
Right.
He's not supposed to sit at Luton County Court.
Oh.
District Judge Richard Clark with an E is at the Midland Circuit on the 18th to the 10th, 2012. He was registered.
Okay.
So he should not be sitting. He has no jurisdiction at that court.
So what you're saying is they're bringing in perhaps judges from different places that are
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. without a shadow of doubt, they're bringing in corrupt judges to hear cases.
And the only judge that gave you anything that perhaps could help you was the judge that. Do you think that was an accident that they gave you him at the first fact? Why? Because he sounds like you say, he sounds like he was honest.
It was only because we had a hearing before him, and when I started looking into the securitisation issue, all I had was the first 3 pages of the mortgage sale agreement, which was sent to me by a trader.
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, "This is what you need to defend yourself." And I went with those 3 pages. And I'll never forget this in the hearing. They send an agent from a company called LIP, who doesn't know anything about the case. They come with three pages themselves of what your mortgage is, a copy of the registry title, and what is owed. And I went in with the 3 pages, and I'll never forget the woman, Sarah Ingleson. I said, "Well, they don't own my mortgage, Mr. White. This is my evidence." He looked at it. He has his desk in front of you, and to the left of him is his own computer system. Mm-hmm. He just sprang around to look under the computer, tapped in the first whatever lines it was to find the mortgage sale agreement. The barrister who was representing the called mortgages went apeshit. You can't do that. It's only evidence before. He said, "No, I want to see what this is." And he asked me a question. I said, "Look, I don't know too much about it at that stage. This is what I was presented. This is what's happened." And he must have seen something on that computer screen for him to turn around and say, "Right, I'm going to make an order, and this is the order I'm going to make." And that's where he made the order that an officer of the company, the claimant company, because I'll come on to the little bit of why he said that a bit later on, the claimant company must make the order that I'm going to do. That an officer of the claimant company make the affidavit that the true position of this mortgage. Mm-hmm. Now, we summoned Ian Bullock 3 times to come to court. He's the chairman of the called mortgages. He has never come once.
Very interesting. It's a clear case of gaslighting. This is what they seem to be doing.
This is dirty money. I'm making no bones about that at all. This is cleaning of dirty money. Yeah. This is drugs money. And the government and the judiciary are full aware of what is happening.
Of course they are, because they're party to it. I mean,
David Cameron has got connections, so I'm very reliably informed, with the company that is the trustee of these mortgages, a company called Capita.
Now, we know about Capita, don't we?
Oh, I think it's the most dodgiest company in the face of the earth that has never got his fingers burnt at all. And it's very strange that it must have very good connections to be kept out of the limelight whenever the shit hits the fan.
Mm. Well, there are a couple of other companies that are right up there with it, I'd say. We've got Serco and G4S. They all seem to be absolutely bulletproof because it doesn't matter what fraud they commit.
Look who's in bed with G4S.
Yeah, G4S is Capita, isn't it? It's all of them. I mean, if you think about it, Capita, don't they even own British Gas?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, you've got you've got companies that own other companies. So one company is helping another company to defraud somebody of their home, their property, and the people that are enforcing that are connected to these companies. So it's all the same company. It's just one big company.
Yeah.
That's using different arms of its different tentacles, like an octopus, to strangle people.
Yeah. Well, the company that represented them was a company called Optima Legal.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns Optima Legal?
Capita?
Yeah. Lock, stock and barrel.
Wow.
And in fact, they were fined by the Solicitors Regulatory Authority because they brought Capita before they should have done. They loaned Optima Legal £4 million and not declare it to buy the shares.
Wow.
And then they called that note in to then actually own Capita. So it's all intertwined.
It certainly appears that you've uncovered a real viper's nest there.
Well, you see, the documents can't lie. And I would suggest anybody that's got a mortgage with either Yorkshire Building Society or Accord Mortgages, go online, get these documents and read them. And if they don't understand them, because it has taken me a very long time to understand them and read them properly, they will find out that they don't own their mortgage at all. You're paying a third party because you'll pay your interest every month to what you think is your building society. That building society then every day cleans that account and sends it on to the note holders. There's no money left in that account at night. It all gets swept away. So if you paid £100 for your interest on your mortgage, just say, on Thursday, by Friday morning, there's not £100 in that account. It's swept every single night. It's actually in the documents that is what they must do.
That's quite a system.
Oh, it is an absolute money-making exercise for them. And I mean, you know, the figures that we were talking about, Andy, I mean, Accord Mortgages is nothing but on paper. They have no employees, they have no staff, yet have capacity to pay Yorkshire Building Society in their last accounts £100 million in interest. How on earth they do that? They don't make that type of money. So,
but do you think? I'm just thinking. I mean, we're talking about these people. It's all involved in the system, and the people that protect them all are the MPs that are elected to Parliament because they've got interest in these companies. And therefore, or they take sweeteners, or they get paid by these companies. So therefore, they implement legislation to favour them. But now, do you think after Brexit, I think somebody's thrown a spanner in the works, and I think it's probably Rupert Murdoch because the government aren't doing enough to stop people from. He's losing a lot of money from the football that he provides being. People getting it for free rather than paying for it. So he's lost a lot in revenue, and I think he's the one that threw a spanner in the works. They backed Brexit, and now it's all we've got rid of. We seem to have lost a load of people. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have lost positions of power, and I think that was probably Murdoch having a go because the government were favouring these other companies while leaving him alone.
Well, you take it. How on earth David Cameron went at the time that he did and as quick as he did? He knows the shit's coming and he doesn't want to get caught in the crossfire. He knew full well that the castle's beginning to crumble, and he wanted out, and he wanted out quickly. He was going to stay on until September, October. So no, he'd dump May in, let May come in and take all the flack, and when the whole system starts to crumble now, and believe you me, we are heading for a worse, should we say, depression in housing things than ever before, because everybody, they've got to realise they're only one payday away from losing their home. Everybody. You know, there's no one at all that is safe in their jobs anymore. I'll give you an instance. There was a headmaster that I know. I speak to him maybe twice a week. He rang me on Monday and said, I've been given notice. They want to turn my school into an academy.
Yep.
Well, what does he do? You know, he's built his lifestyle and his, should we say, bills and everything else around that job. So if he loses that job, everything else falls away. And he can't, he thought his job was safe. Yeah, I thought teaching jobs were safe.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is they're going to have to then be on worse contracts with G4S, with less protections, less benefits as well. They're going to end up. You're going to end up with just teachers that don't do it for very long at all because, well, why would you?
The teaching contract is a yearly contract. The TAs are a term contract, so you work from term to term. The dinner ladies are a yearly contract. The school keeper, the guy who looks after the building and everything else, is on a yearly contract. So if he does all right in 1 year, and then the next year they think, oh, we get these guys in because they're going to do it cheaper and they're going to do it less costly to me, we're going to get rid of him. He loses his house and everything else. So we got the guy there also saying, what do I do? And as you say, none of these MPs are doing anything.
Because they've all got the fingers in the pies.
Oh, they got their arms in the pies.
Yeah. I would have said different appendage, but I think I'll leave that out for tonight.
We wrote off to God, what's the deputy Labour guy? Donnelly, the shadow chancellor. We wrote off to him with a copy of these documents, emailed him at his office and at the Houses of Parliament. We've never had a reply back from him. Do you know that? Right. Now that tells you something. Now they're always trying to look at digging and clawing into the Conservatives and the bankers and the financial, you know, they've always got their feet. And yet this guy didn't even bother answering any of the emails or letters.
Oh, right.
So, you know, as you say, they're all at it. They're all feathering their nest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Is David Cameron going to go? I know he's got enough money because I know his house in Chiswick, so he's got a fair bit tucked away.
Well, and
yeah, but I'm sorry. Go on, Andy.
Also, with the Cameron family and his great or great grandfather started the HSBC Bank to launder drug money for the East India Company, and I think they're doing fairly well off that, with money salted about all over in various offshore accounts. I did see that one of his offshore accounts that he said there was only 30 grand in it or something. It's now being revealed there's millions in there. Have you seen that, Mike?
Well, it's not only that. Yesterday, it came to light that Jules Osborne actually stopped the Justice Department in America from prosecuting HSBC and fined them only because they wanted to arrest the directors of HSBC and get them carted off to the States. But he stepped in and said, this will bring our financial institutions down to their knees, and we can't have all of this, and just fine them. And he stopped it from going ahead. So we know where he's going to be going.
George Osborne, though, we're talking about a man, right, who got it made legal to include prostitution and cocaine sales in the GDP in order to borrow more money, to be able to borrow more money. He had the GDP, he had added to it prostitution and cocaine, drugs, narcotics.
Yeah, but that's what they use.
Well, it does seem he's quite an expert in that field, Jason. So, give him his dues there.
Well, he knows his shit, doesn't he? Oh.
Yeah, but do you actually have any idea how much money is on paper in the housing market? Anybody have any rough inkling?
Not a clue, Mike. Not a clue. Can you enlighten us?
How would £5 trillion sound?
Is that just the UK housing market?
Just the UK housing market.
Wow.
£5 trillion.
£5 trillion.
Done. I'll take it.
Now, you imagine if, say 1,000 people stop paying their mortgage in any mortgage company in the UK, what would happen? Now, the judge said this at the property chamber. Anne McAllister, which we've got on tape, turned round and said this. What would happen to the mortgage market if I ruled in their favour? It would collapse overnight.
Yay, everyone gets free houses.
Well, you own the house anyway. With this...
we can't do. It's like any normal person would say the mortgage market would collapse instantly, overnight. Brilliant!
Yeah.
Everyone gets free houses. Let's do it.
Yeah, but you don't understand.
That's what a real person would do.
What actually has happened is that it's like your promissory note. When you sign your mortgage acceptance, that is then sold on the open market in a bundle of portfolio of mortgages. So they've already got your acceptance. They haven't given you any money yet, but you're accepting their offer.
Mm-hmm.
So that then creates money for them. Now, they don't sell that once. As in my case, they've sold that 6 times for a greater amount. So every time they sell it, they get a bigger amount on it. So even if we turn around and say, yeah, okay, let's be generous. The first time they sell it, that could be their profit. That could be their money. But when they sell it 4, 5, 6 times, that should be ours. It's our note. It's our money that's paying it. So that should be ours. Then, as you say, no one would have a mortgage.
But then again, it's illusion, isn't it? It's illusion, and us believing and people believing in that illusion is the only thing that's keeping the illusion alive, because that is not a physical thing. The physical thing is what you're sat in, and that's really what counts at the end of the day. So, God, I hate saying that. He hates people saying that, so I wish I'd not said it at the end of the day now, but I've said it now, so I can't take it back. But you understand what I mean? It's an illusionary thing that's... so it's changed on your mind, really.
Well, let's put it this way. I can remember. I'm 63 years old. I can remember going into the Building Society with my little passbook into Leeds Building Society, the bottom of my nan's road and putting the £3 that she gave me into this passport. Now, in the old days, that £3 is what they lent to people to buy their homes.
Mhm.
That's all done away with now. There is no money now. So what are we lending to people?
Well,
It's an illusion. It's nothing.
I refer you back to, I mentioned what Roger Hayes was talking about a while back, and he said one very important distinction to make is that banks do not lend money. Banks facilitate credit, and that is a very, very different thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I say. You see, people then would understand that they're paying for nothing.
Yeah.
It's there with no forward thinking on it that you own nothing. There's nothing there. If you went to the Building Society, and I believe someone, the Spaniard, Simon Goldberg, has now pulled them up on this and said, well, where is all the documents? No one gets their deeds back anymore. Where's all the documents done under the power of attorney? Which, again, is totally illegal because it doesn't comply with the Power of Attorney Act. When you do a power of attorney, you're supposed to have it sworn, given the reasons for it to be done. You keep a copy, they keep a copy. You don't have it stuck hidingly away in your terms and conditions. Now, we withdrew our power of attorney, and they could not do anything with our house for a year.
Uh-huh.
So from the January when they repossessed until the following January, they couldn't do anything with it. They allegedly went to the court and got a power of sale through the courts, but we never got no paperwork because they knew we would turn up and say they've got no power. So they sold them all their interest.
So
it said really clearly there.
They're getting this power of sale was done completely without your knowledge then, was it, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Because you'd forced them into a blind alley where there really was no way out for them.
Well, we never had a hearing. We applied for a judicial review, and Lord Justice Tenney, who's another corrupt little so-and-so, just said, there's no merit in your case. Go away and don't bother us again. So we wrote off to him with the 5 magic questions. In this document, what does full title guarantee mean under the Land Registration Act? What does sold with all rights, benefits and interests mean? Why does it have a list on the back of this document of 10 mortgages that are exempt from the sale? Out of all the mortgages that they've got, why does it only list 10? Mine isn't in there. We only had a letter back from his minion, Miss Emma Golding, saying he's not going to reply to you. That's the end of the matter. So we wrote back to him again and said, under the Human Rights Act, you're supposed to give us your reasoning for without merit. But because you're a lying, distasteful judge, you can't. We never got another reply. And I'm sure that if you received a letter like that and you were a judge, not only would you be hacked off, you'd be hacking me off up the road as well. But he knows full well that it would need to go before a jury. And do you honestly think, in anybody's state of mind, a jury is going to sit there and not listen to the truth? Because we we walked back into our house and started to remove the shutters and the security little implications that they put in. The police turned up, arrested everybody that was there giving me a hand, and arrested me for criminal trespass, burglary, criminal damage, threatening behaviour. I don't know what to. Maybe the shutter got the hump. I don't know. But anyway, they took me off to Luton police station, held me for 24 hours so they could repair all the shutters again and put the shutters back on. And then turned around and told me the owners of the property do not wish to take any charges against you.
Yeah, of course, the charges would have been dropped. I was just about to say, I'll bet the charges have been dropped. Nobody faced a single charge because then they'd have to prove their case.
Yeah. Yeah. But the point is, the owners of the property, Yorkshire Building Society. We don't have our mortgage with Yorkshire Building Society. It's with the called mortgages. They're the registered charge, not Yorkshire Building Society. So when we brought that up to the police and brought their notice to them, they started mumbling about, it's a mistype and a clerical error. I said, well, sorry, you've put it in twice. You've not only emailed me that they're not going to press charges, but you've now put it in a letter. So there's corruption as far as the police are concerned. Because we had no warrant. There's never been a warrant. No one's ever been able to produce a warrant for possession. And when they did produce a notice of a warrant, it had the wrong claimant's name on it. And if you look at the YouTube video, it does show that the claimant's name is Optima Legal. So what is going on? It is a cartel of house robbing to pay everybody back.
Yeah, it almost sounds like when I was down in Spain, you used to get the gypsies on the seafront there with what they call the potato trick, and we call it the pea and cup or chase the lady or whatever. And they're just basically confusing you. And while they confuse you, the guy you look at isn't robbing you, but there's pickpockets all around who are robbing you. If you've turned up on a scooter, they'll probably nick your scooter while you're watching what's going on as well. And somebody might have your wallet out your back pocket as well.
Oh, they're robbing us blind. Mm-hmm. You know, that people have really got to wake up and really seriously, because these people are feathering their own nest. So when the shit does hit the fan, they're going to walk away smiling. And it'll be everybody else that's left in the lurch, out on the streets, and with nothing at all. Now, we went to the property chamber, and where Anne McAllister, who's a judge who's been sitting on the property chamber for 12 years at that stage. 15 minutes it took her to admit that when someone changes a charge, so supposing I brought your house, I will have 6 months to register that charge. If I don't do that in 6 months, I can't register it. So you could sit in your house and tell me to go away. Uh-huh. And there's nothing I could do. I could sue you for the money, say, well, I've done this and I've lent you the money, but I'll have a hard time. Now, it took her 6 months to even admit that we were right. The other point that she also fell down with and they've now started to try and change, is the Land Registration Act.
Mm.
Under Section 23, it says the owner's powers in relation to a registered charge consists of being able to do a subcharge or a legal charge. Just read that bit in your mind for a minute. What does it say? The owner's powers in relation to a registered charge. Who's the owner? It's you and me.
Mm.
It's not the mortgage company. They don't own it. You're the registered proprietor. So obviously, you've got the powers which were written wrong. So we brought that to her attention, and they're now trying to change what the owner's powers are in the Land Registry Act. And then it also states that under Section 57, if there's a change in the charge or a transfer of that charge, it has to be registered. Now remember that, it has to be registered. You have 6 months to register it. So all these mortgage sales and all these, should we say, Bradford and Bingleys and Santander, Northern Rock, all these mortgage charges are out of time. They can't register them. And that's their problem. No one can come after you for the money because they're out of time to register them.
So just to clarify that, Mark, what that means essentially, if I'm reading this right, is that we know that mortgages are sold on and securitized, but what that essentially means is that any company who is going to sell that mortgage, the company that buys it needs to register a change or re-register the charge on that property, otherwise it ceases to apply.
That is correct. You look at the Land Registration Act 2002, I think it's number 57, it says if there's a sale or a transfer of the charge, it has to be registered. Now, if you've got the documents that I've sent on to you and I've got here, they've quite clearly sold all their rights, benefits and interests. You can't split the beneficial interest. You can't split the equitable interest.
Mm-hmm.
And even in their accounts, it says that they have sold their mortgages to a third party. So it's gone. So there is this is why, when I said to you earlier on, we've never gone to a judge at Luton County Court that's got the jurisdiction to hear the case. Because if I won my case, if I won one argument in my case, it's game over. That is why Ian Bullock would never come to court, because he would have to stand up in court and say, yes, we've sold it. I'm not going to lie to you, this, that and the other. Because if he had to do that, that would have been game over.
Which is why I didn't turn up.
They wouldn't allow him to turn up.
No.
Because that's why the guy has resigned from McCall Mortgages. And that is why the chief executive has resigned from Yorkshire Building Society. Oh, he put a nice excuse in that he went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and never got home till 6 o'clock at night, and therefore he didn't have family life. I think he wants to go and get a real life, really, to be honest. Who the hell goes out at that time of day and comes home again? I wish I could. It never happens, you know. But the guy, they see what is coming, and they've had their £1 million a year contracts, and they want to get out and run away as quickly as possible. I mean, these documents are very solid and very secure, and it will take someone quite a long time to understand what they are. But if they read them, then they will understand what they mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've tried to read through the documents, but like you say, it took you 8 years to understand them, Mike. And my mind is not particularly a legal one, so
No, your mind is illegal.
no,
You've got an illegal mind, haven't you?
I said it's not particularly a legal one, Jason.
Yeah, it's illegal.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right then, if you like.
All right.
I mean, it's something which I would say to anybody, you know, if you want any help with this, if you give them our Facebook page, the YBS Action Group on Facebook, and also on a website, we'll try and put people into the right frame of it.
Yeah, we'll certainly do that, Mike. What we usually do after the show, I do a bit of a write-up for the podcast and put that on the website. And on that write-up, we include all the links where you can contact people like yourself and other guests, and also any groups that they've got that may be helping people. So, yeah, we'll certainly link people to that.
I mean, the most important document to that is when they sell something, they have to do what they term as a deed of assignment. Mm-hmm. If I want to, say, sell it to you, but I still want to keep my name on the Facebook or out there, it's like they do a McDonald's franchise. They do what they term as a deed of assignment. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know whether I sent you that one, but on the deed of assignment, it is signed by Ian Bullock, and it does actually say that. Just trying to get this one up.
Yeah, you did send me that one. It's signed by Bullock and witnessed by someone who lives at Yorkshire House.
Yeah, well, no. She's a lady called Dawn Howard. Mm-hmm. She's Yorkshire Building Society's legal solicitor or whatever. I don't particularly. She's never shown her face at any hearing, even though we've requested that she attends as well. But there it says again, you know, all their rights, benefits, and interest in it, and that the benefit of all related security relating to the mortgages, including without limitation all securities for the principal monetaries and interest secured by the mortgages, and all benefits of all consents to the mortgages signed by the occupiers of the mortgage properties, and the benefit of all guarantees, indemnities, and security contracts relating to the mortgages. So they've already signed away their interest in it. That document means they've sold it. End of story. Mm. And we did that to the judges, and they looked at it and got up and walked out, and then came back and said, "Your case is without merit."
Mm. We seem to be hearing that an awful lot for anyone who's got a watertight case and goes into court. we hear this. I see no merit. Your case is without merit, and
I can't tell you why.
I can only imagine how frustrating that is for you and for all the other people who've got the case in order. Thanks for the first hour, Mike. It's flown past as usual. Some brilliant information there. At this time, we usually play a tune, have a music break, and I found one that I thought might be a bit appropriate for the middle of this show. And well,
this looks good.
Oh, it's not playing for some reason. So we'll have one from Heath instead. Sorry. The one I've got lined up for later is not playing, but I'll get it sorted out for later. So we'll be back in just over 5 minutes with more from Mike, Jason, and myself. Enjoy the music and grab yourself a cuppa if you need to.
All right, thanks very much.
This smells so much with their flags. She's alluded to the military band. Most of the people fail to see she had a broken bottle in the other hand. She took them by surprise. She took them by the throat. I said, my friends, you're not allowed to vote. Ooh, but they shook it all off with a nervous laugh and cough. Next time she said, I'll let those people judge. Themselves to death, smile so much they fail to take a breath. And even when their kids were starving, they all thought the queen was charming. The people who grin themselves to death, smile so much they fail to take a breath. And even when their kids were starving, they all thought the queen was charming. Polished all upon the wall, right her hands right through her hair. So if the lady took the time to call, all the houses on the street would not compare. She thought it really funny that she hadn't any money, but those she looked up to, they had. Ooh, but they shook it all off with a nervous laugh and cough. And when they took her riches, it was sad. Themselves to death, smile so much they fail to take a breath. And even when their kids were starving, they all thought the queen was charming. The people who grin themselves to death, smile so much they fail to take a breath. And even when their kids were starving, they all thought the queen was charming. Who grin themselves to death, smile so much they fail to take a breath. And even when they kids were starving. They all thought the queen was charming.
You're listening to RaconteursNews.com. Stay tuned for more untwisted, unsweetened news. Please consider buying a t-shirt or making a donation to help support us. Thank you for your support. We do it for us all.
And welcome back to Raconteurs News. This quite pleasant Thursday evening. It's almost like summer's started here. I'm sat here with a t-shirt and shorts on and bare feet, and I'm not at all shivering like I've been for the last few weeks. Welcome back, Jason, and welcome back, Mike.
Hi, Mac.
Okay, I've just got a little message in the break from Rob Freeman, who's in the chat room, and he's asked me to make a little announcement for him, which we're happy to do. He says, thanks to being on our show a couple of weeks ago, he's been asked to do 4 talks, which we're delighted to hear that, because Rob's got some pretty blinding information to get out there. He said he wants us to let people know that he'll be speaking at Nottingham this Saturday, the 16th of July, at the Navigation Inn. There are 2 speakers, and Rob's on last. The time of the meeting is from 1 to 8 p.m, and he says many, many thanks. And if you want to check out the website for the pub, it's www.thenavin.com. So if you're free this Saturday and you want to go along and listen to Rob and give him support, should be a great way to spend your Saturday afternoon. I know we're a bit busy this weekend, but if we can get over, we certainly will, because we spoke to Rob now end of times on Skype, on the radio, but I've never actually met him face to face. So let's get that day brought forward pretty soon. So
yeah, I can't make it down there that day. It's a shame, really, because I've got two quite big events on Saturday. So one in the day and one at night. So I can't really get down there. But it would have been great to see Rob speaking. I've seen Rob. In fact, I've hosted Rob speaking before, and it's always good value, great value. And I'm sure the other speakers as well will have a lot of good information. So yeah, if you're in that area, get yourself down there and support them and help them. This is what we need to do: come together and speak with each other. It's a great place to meet people as well. And if you've just been sat behind your computer and you know it's the time. Just get yourself out there, meet people. Honestly, these people, everybody is just so nice to each other, and because we are sensitive souls, after all, aren't we? Especially us at Raconteurs News.
Absolutely. And talking of Raconteurs News, don't forget that coming up at 9 p.m. tonight, we've got Dr. Rock's radio show. And this week it's Health Matters with Stella Berg. Doc will be talking Health Matters with Stella Berg, philosopher, natural law activist, homeopath and teacher. So there's going to be a lot to learn from that show. I'm really looking forward to that one. As I always do with the Doc, he's great.
Yep, brilliant. Right, well, I think we should get back to tonight.
Yes.
I've had a little think. The reason why I was a bit elusive, shall I say, it wasn't just to disrespect you or anybody else, but when I started to really dig into this and started to make waves, especially at the property chamber and at the High Court, I used to drive for Vauxhalls in Luton. And I used to have a Discovery, diesel Discovery, which I had for years and years and years. Used to do all the work on it myself. I could do it with a blindfold on. Tuesday night when I went to go home, the car was open. So you never really think anything of it. You get in, start up and go home. Wednesday I came to work, parked up all day, came out at 8 o'clock. Went to go to see my daughter in London. I got literally a mile up the road, and in 20 seconds, the car was engulfed in flames.
Ooh.
And the fire brigade came, and I used to travel up and down that road, I would say 30 times a month.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw a police car on the same side as me. This night, 3 cars behind me was a police car. And he pulled straight across. I just about got onto the hard shoulder, and he pulled straight across the road, stopped all the traffic. As I say, the car was engulfed in 20 seconds. I literally just got out the door with my high-vis jacket that I had then, was smouldering. I got out, stood on the hard shoulder, and the fire brigade turned up. The fire brigade have never encountered anything like it before. Petrol cars, yeah, they go up pretty quick. Diesel, you'll have a hell of a job to try and start a fire with a diesel.
Yeah, diesel is quite. I mean, I used to work on petrol tankers, so I'm quite conversant with the difference between diesel and petrol and how they burn. A petrol fire, the fumes are everywhere. It's very easy to start the fire, but with diesel does not produce the fumes to flash over till I think it's 60 degrees centigrade, and also diesel fire is very difficult to start, but once you do get it started, diesel fires are very, very difficult to put out, because I remember a diesel tanker company that I worked for caught fire on the hard shoulder of the M62, and it was blazing for a day and a half, I think. They had to dig up part of the M62 and resurface it over near... it was not far from Selby, actually, on the M62 there. So, yeah.
My car there was nothing left of it by the time the fire brigade turned up. And the insurance company paid out in 4 days.
If that's not...
And well, I've never heard of it. No one even in the Diesel 2 Club, as the Discovery 2 Club, has ever heard of it before.
Mm.
And for an insurance company to pay up in 4 days is... And then the last time this year, in January, I went to meet some people, had a meal, had a drink with them, came home, got up the next morning, felt like I had death.
Mm.
Took to hospital, couldn't find out what was wrong with me. Tried it, everything, taking blood, fluids, and tubes where I wouldn't want to talk about. Could not find what was wrong with me. I had a terrible cough, just couldn't get rid of it. Took 3 months for it to go. So now I'm a little bit more wary of information that I give out. But as someone said this afternoon, giving the information out is more security than anything else. So I think the more people that know about it and know how to do it is going to be better security than anything else.
Well, just as soon as you started talking about your car, there's a question popped up in the chat room: just how does a diesel go up in flames? And which is a valid question, because, like you say, like we said earlier, it's so easy with a petrol, but with a diesel car going up in, yes, you can get electrical shorts and that. Did you ever get any indication what caused the fire in your car at all, Mike?
None whatsoever. Even the fire brigade were mystified of how it could have caught fire. And I had pictures of, I mean, you see them and you think to yourself, oh, that's a lovely, well-kept car. We went everywhere in that, and it was well looked after, well kept clean. Everything that needed to be done was done the next day. I used to buy the parts cheap from Vauxhall, so it used to be looked after. Absolutely no idea whatsoever of why it went so quick. I do believe, and someone has sent me a film subsequently called The International. And he said to me, if you're mixing with Capita and the hierarchy there, this is a film you need to go and watch, he said, because this is what's happened. And I watched it, and it made the hairs on my neck stand up, because it shows what to save their little faces, how they would far go. I mean, you, me, anybody means nothing to them. To save their little skins, they will do it. And I honestly believe that. If we're going to start rocking the boat and bringing the gravy train down, then they're going to fight hell and high water to defend it, because they've got no legal basis to do it. Every single mortgage has gone. So what do they do to stop it all coming out? They've got to shut the people up, discredit them, say they're lunatics, say they're, people are talking off the cloud cuckoo land. But people like me have got the documentary evidence that makes the case that what we're saying is true. The only other document I never sent to you, Andy, which I feel really ashamed about, was a sworn statement from a trader at Goldman Sachs, who have brought my mortgages, who have turned around and done a sworn statement to say they've brought the whole lot, the true sale. And they don't know what the hell the judge is talking about, saying they've split the beneficial and equitable interest. And it's funny how Accord Mortgages have had to rescind every Scottish mortgage they've had to pay back.
Pay back to whom? Sorry, Mike, there.
Back to the bondholders. They've actually now paid off every single bondholder. And these bondholders here, in this mortgage sale agreement here, were supposed to have been paid on the 16th of June this year. They haven't paid them back. They haven't got the money to pay them back. You're talking, on this sale alone, £32 billion. Where are they going to get that money from? That's just the called mortgages. That's not Yorkshire Building Society, because they're doing it the same as well. They've got theirs under Yorkshire Building Society covered bonds. And in the stock exchange, they have to register these charges. And they register them as investor bonds. And every month they have to do an investor report, and it gives what mortgages are there, how much money is outstanding, what the pay ratio is of each note, and everything else. It's a lot of jargon, but basically it says for 587,000 mortgages, they've got £29 million. My mortgage isn't millions. How on earth did the figures work out? How did you get £29 million from 5,000 mortgages? That's what they've borrowed on those 5,000 mortgages.
Yeah.
I mean, go onto the stock exchange and have a look for brass number one. Anybody can do it themselves. Go in, have a look at the investor reports, or email me, and I'll send you a copy of them, and you can see what we're saying is true. How on earth did 5,000 mortgages get £29 million? We're in the wrong business.
Yeah, we are. Rob Freeman's just put a comment in the chat. He says The International is a 2009 German-American political thriller drama film. So that's The International, it's called, directed by Tom Twyker. The film follows an Interpol agent and an American district attorney who investigate corruption within the IBBC, a fictional merchant bank based in Luxembourg. Now that's quite close to BCCI. That was the one that Nick Leeson brought down, wasn't it? The Bank of Credit and Commerce International.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just incredible.
You said it, I didn't.
That's a decent film to watch. The International.
Yeah. Oh no, it shows you the corruption that is out there, and the ways in which they will facilitate to keep themselves within power, because it's not as the film says, it's not selling something, it's the country's debt, which is what keeps the country under control. It's like the Rothschilds and Suleimans and all of this. The debt that they own keeps themselves in control.
Mm.
I mean, where did the government go and get all their debt? Where did they go and get all their money from?
Well, they go and get all their money from the Bank of England, which many people falsely believe is owned by the people of this country. But in reality, it's a private corporation whose shareholders are actually a state secret, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. But you see, it's like the land registry. You go onto the land registry website and it says, we are here to facilitate the land registration and changes for our stakeholders and the people. You try and find out who the stakeholders of the land registry are.
Yeah, that to me is a worrying one as well, because we've seen the statement that they're going to privatise the land registry.
Oh, yeah.
So
they will.
No doubt that'll be some more smoke and mirrors to try and make this problem go away and allow them to continue to do what they're doing without people like yourself being troublesome and actually finding out the truth of what's going on.
Well, the point is, in America, they've had great success. And exactly the same type of documents that we've had here. They've had great success. Ben Gilroy in Ireland has done exactly the same with success.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot allow any case to win here. One case will open the floodgates. She admitted that. She spoke without putting her brain into gear, where she said very, very clearly, and there was 4 other people in the court who fell about laughing. What will happen to the mortgage market if I ruled in their favour? That shows dishonesty by the judge because she knows full well that we're right in what we're saying.
Yeah.
And take it, we've been before her, Judge Cook, Judge Cousins, Lord Justice Tenney, and none of them have been able to tell us that we're wrong in what we're saying. All they come back with is without merit. We're not going to tell you why it's without merit, but we're going to tell you it's without merit. Now that to me is the worst type of corruption than anything else. Because if I'm wrong, and I've said it and I've given the papers to many people, if I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. We've only had one guy turn around to us and say that in the mortgage sale agreement, it says under Section 6, prior to the sale, the title will be split between the beneficial and the equitable interest. So we dragged out the Oxford Legal Dictionary. And you know the words legalese, prior means something will happen before the event. So after that event, it's no longer prior. So prior to them selling it to the issuer, they can sell it to Father Christmas or Mickey Mouse. And this is what we said to Cousins. And we said, if we're wrong, tell us where we're wrong.
Yeah, they probably could sell it to Father Christmas, but I think he's a little bit busy at the moment with Operation U-Tree. So stay tuned, kids. We'll let you know the status of Father Christmas and whether he's going to arrive in December. Fear porn for children.
Well, I doubt whether Father Christmas will be on their good books this year. So it's a case where if I was wrong, and I challenge anybody wants these documents and proves me wrong, then fine. But no one has been able to say where I'm wrong now. And everybody thinks, oh, well, it's just one guy, that's creating Mary Hell. If you go to any of the courts in the country, they have 4 days that they deal with evictions, repossessions of property. 4 days in Luton County Court. And they stipulate that the first courts for it are on the second floor, are just there to do with the repossessions of property. Now, we're up to 100,000 repossessions every year. So that's 100,000 families that are out on the street. So where do they go? Now, this is what people have really got to realise, that if they don't stop it now, they're only a month away from them getting into mortgage trouble. Mm-hmm. I've got a friend who's he does computers and he's works for a large company, and he's been going here, there and everywhere to train other people to do his job, basically. Mm-hmm. And he came back last weekend and I said to him, oh, you've been away? Yeah, I went there and I had to train these people up to do my job. And I said, well, hang on a minute. You're training these people in India to do your job. You're going to come back one weekend and your job ain't going to be there. Then what do you do? Mm-hmm. And he had
somebody from India to come and train him to do a job that they can do.
Yeah. And he had to think for a minute of how secure his job was. And I said, well, you lose your job. Security in computer industry isn't that great. What are you going to do? If you go, all right, I'm not saying that, Sainsbury's or Tesco's or whatever is a bad job. But if you go and get a job there because it's the only one you can get, it's not going to cover your mortgage. So, they really are. People have really got to wake up and think of how it's going to affect them if things go pear-shaped.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't think people are aware of it. They're looking at the telly when they come in at night and, sitting in front of the TV and nothing else.
Mm. Well, I think that was very well illustrated by a lady who was on Question Time some time back when we had the last general selection, and David Cameron got in again by some miracle, and she sat there almost in tears saying, well, I voted for you because I thought you were going to leave me alone and just, hassle all these poor people and these benefit scroungers.
It would child tax credits she was on about, weren't it? Because it was on about abolishing tax credits, and she said that she'd voted Tory simply because they were going to keep tax credits, and so I think they referred to her as an "I'm all right, Jack."
Yeah,
which a lot of I think Cameron probably got a lot of votes on the back of that "I'm all right, Jack" situation, and also on the back of promising a referendum, which seems to have blown up in his face a little bit like a pig's penis.
Well, I mean, we all walk along in our life, and we always think it's never going to affect me. I was doing my job for a good 40-something years. And I would have never have thought I would have had the accident that I did. I thought my experience would have protected me, but it was some other stupid idiot that got me in that position to put me in the accident that I was. Mm. So, people thinking, oh, it's never going to affect me or it's never going to be my situation. Not anymore. People, I will say, really do please wake up and smell the coffee, because it will affect you. Not maybe this year, but when the trouble starts to come, and we will be facing harsh realities, I think, later this year or definitely next year. How many people are going to be up before the courts? Pleading to keep their houses and to keep a roof over their heads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's what keeps me harping on about this. If I can give one person the confidence to go before the court and say, I want this person who alleges to own my mortgage to come to court, summons him to come and get him into court, and then you'll find out the truth. We could never do it. It was a very, very slick cartel that kept Ian Bullock out of court. He would never, ever come to court. And every time we went, they changed solicitor. It was never the firm of solicitors that turned up. It was always an agent whose argument was, well, I don't know the case. I've just been told to give these documents and this is what I want to happen. And because the judges were so corrupt, they backed them. Mm. When they get a decent, honest judge, like Judge White, who says, no, there is something here, you go away, you get the affidavit, come back and we'll have it again. He marked it in his book, and it's on the order. We're back before him on the 1st of October. So he had it already written in his book to hear the case again. And we never, ever went before him again. So, I would say if that's the case, then, it just shows you that no one's safe. So, I mean,
No, that's right. And nobody is safe, and I think that's what what's turned things round. I think people have now seen what's happening to other people. It's happening to people that are close. It seems that like it's getting closer and closer to them, and that's probably a reason why we've voted for Brexit.
well, I think the Brexit vote was more conclusive than what they've led us to believe.
Yeah.
It's not a conspiracy feeling. I think there was a lot more votes to believe than what they portrayed, and I thought that they thought that they could still manipulate the result. And when the result came that it was so vast, they had to backpedal quickly. And Cameron had nowhere to go. Therefore, he was going to resign. But if you notice, I'm going to resign. I'll stay to the autumn. But what happened? Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, he went as quick as anything because I think Theresa May has been given a chalice which is going to burn her, and I think that's the outlook of her. They knew that we are heading for another downward slide. So I think, it will be a case that we're going to have a recession in the housing market. A few jobs will go, and we'll be holding the baby still.
Well,
and it'll always be the workers that do it.
Well, I'm just Mike. I'm just conscious of the time. We've got about 22 minutes left. And what I really wanted to do is I wanted your advice for anybody who finds themselves in that situation that you found yourself in. What lessons did you learn? What would you do again? What would you not do again? If you find yourself in a situation where perhaps you've lost your job, or through no fault of your own you can't afford to pay your mortgage. What sort of advice would you give to anybody that finds themselves either close to or in that situation?
Right. But what I would suggest for them, and looking back, I would have done it a bit differently. They're going to come after your house, come hell or high water, because of the securitisation. They have no control over what happens. It's another party pulling the strings. So you've got to protect yourself. If you look online and you find that they have sold their mortgage, they would have sold it with all their rights, benefits and interest. Look at the documents, see who's a party to that sale. Now, it would only be, or the only person that can be, is an officer of the company, a director of the company. That is the one that you need to summons to attend court and go down the lines that they don't own your mortgage. And if anybody writes, sends me an email, I'll send them Mr. Gleeson's statement from Goldman Sachs.
Okay, well, you best give your email out then, your email address out. So if anyone wants to email.
Yeah, it's Yorkshire Building Society Action Group, YBS Action Group.
Yep.
At gmail.com.
So that's YBS Action Group.
At
gmail.com. Yep. Okay.
Or
so if anybody wants to get in contact with you. Oh, there you go. Andy's just put it in the chat room.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to contact you on that? I suppose you would. You'd welcome anybody if with any.
I would give anybody any help that I can do, any advice that I can do. I mean, the way to do it is the same as they've done in America and done in Ireland. Get the guy to call. If you have a hearing, no one will turn up from the mortgage company. Doesn't matter how many times you ask. Not unless you summons them, get a receipt for that summons and stamped. No judge can walk away from that thing. Don't rely on the courts to do it, because the courts won't do it. You have to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Get the witness summons out there and get them into court. And then it's the specific questions you need to ask. The only other thing I would bring up is, given the statement from John Gleeson, but there was also a woman who went before the Treasury Committee, Miss Butler, who turned round and stated that they don't own the mortgages and they have sold at them as a true sale. Therefore, they shouldn't be in court. Now, that Treasury report has never seen the light of day. Why is that? Because she turned round, like in America, where she was trained, and opened the can of worms. But it is online. The internet is a good thing. You can find it. You'll have to go through quite a few pages. But her witness statement is before the Treasury Committee.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, if people are near to, should we say, the home counties or the M25, and they've got a court hearing and they need help, I'm quite happy to help them. Because if we don't, as you said earlier, if we don't stick together and start fighting them properly, we're never going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to now start fighting back, because that 100,000 is going to be 200,000 next year.
Yeah,
and that's women, children, everybody.
Yeah, it's only ever going to increase while we're under the cosh as we are. And I'm so glad to hear that you're offering to help other people, Mike, who find themselves in a similar situation, because for someone who just arrives in this situation and has got no idea what the ramifications of it are, it is an absolutely terrifying situation, isn't it? And the fear is what controls you to an extent. But if you've got people around you who've got some answers and a way forward, then it's always going to help to cope with that situation in a lot better way, isn't it?
Well, I mean, when I first started, I was out in the sticks, on my own, injured, ill, in a hospital, and all I got was my wife turning up in tears with the eviction proceeding letters. And you think, so what the hell do I do? You go to Citizens Advice, they fob you off and say, oh, well, there's not a lot we can do. You better go to shelter. They're going to try and put you in rehome, And you think, so, well, hang on. We're not talking of vast telephone numbers here.
Mm.
We had a mortgage of 230,000, and we had a mortgage of 160. They sold my house in January for 280,000. So where's the rest of the money?
Mm. Yes, where is the money? That
well, we've done a subject access request, and I suggest anybody, if they're getting into problems with their mortgage company, to see what is going on, is to do two things: remove the power of attorney, which is in your terms and conditions. You have to go and get it sworn before a commissioner of oaths. Remove the power of attorney, and then do a subject access request. Accord Mortgages have had our subject access requests for 70 days now. They haven't replied, so we reported them to the Information Officers Commission and done a complaint against them for failing to do it. When we did the same to Optima Legal, we got ours back in 8 days. So they didn't want to be left holding the baby. I mean, it's a load of rubbish, but it's a thing that they've done. And I mean, you know, people have got, if you just lay back, they're going to walk all over you. And they'll have no respect for you whatsoever. A solicitor working for these companies will stand up in court and lie through his teeth. Make no bones about that. They will say things which they know is totally untrue. But they're not working for you. They're working for their client. And they will lie. I mean, we had that. We had Mr. Taylor sit in the court before our last hearing and say our house was only worth $220,000. Therefore, it's gone into negative equity. Then they sell it for $280,000. So which is it? But he knew he was lying.
Yeah.
But that is their job. They're paid by the big companies. They're not paid by you, and you will never get a solicitor to represent you in court. You'll have a solicitor to go and try and limit your losses or your exposure, but he will never fight for you. Their oath is to the court, not to you. When they become solicitors, they swear an oath to the court first.
Absolutely, Mike. I've just got a little interesting snippet posted from Peanut in the chat room, and it's regarding the Information Commissioner's Office, I think it's called, or Information Commissioner's Ombudsman, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It says you only have 40 days to make your complaint. Read the subject access report. I'm sure you're aware of that, but I'm just reading that out.
No. We give them. They have 40 days to reply to your request, and then you have. You've got to send them another letter saying your intention to report them if they haven't complied with your issue, and you give them 14 days. And then after that, you've got to inform the Commissioner's Office that they haven't complied with any of them. Send everything via recorded delivery, better still, via email, because then you've got a copy of it. And we've had instances where they've stood up in court and said, we haven't sent anything, and we've sent copies to the claimant, and they've responded. Well, we can prove that by our emails. They had nothing. So they will say that they've done things, and they haven't. So make sure you cross the I's and do everything possible to prove your case.
That's brilliant, Mike. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the show now, so
That's all right. Thanks very much for having me on.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, mate. It sounds like you've been through a hell of a journey, and I thank you very much for sharing that with us and our listeners. It's coming to the end of the show. Like I say, we've got Doc Rock coming up with a very interesting guest tonight, and I hope to be learning a bit about homeopathy, philosophy, and whatever else they're going to throw in there. I know it's always a great mixed bag. I'd just like to say that we have got other shows on Raconteurs News, and every Sunday we have a new show from Mark Windows, which airs at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. UK time, that is. And then... then on a Monday night we have Unique Lee with The Dark Side of the Room, talking about the creeping DARPA technology grid. And also, he's been putting out some fascinating stuff about Planet 7X and its imminent arrival. That was a great show with Gil Broussard this week, and 4 hours was above and beyond the Call of Duty, Lee. Jason and myself will be back again on Tuesday night, except we're back a little bit later on Tuesday. We're on at 8 p.m. And this coming Tuesday, we've got Rob B and Rob Freeman coming back. So really looking forward to that. I think we're going to be getting really stuck into the council tax there from what I remember. And then on Thursday, we've got the July update from Paul, our financial insider. I know that's always a popular show. And,
I've got plenty of questions for him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, I forgot to mention Friday night. We kick off Friday nights at 8 o'clock with tunes from musical genius over there in Spain, Keno. Followed at 11 p.m. by Cockney Winker Tunes with a very own Tony Hurst, who has a fantastic library of music like I've never come across before, and he always puts together something pretty special, something great to chill your way out of a Friday evening and get set for the weekend nicely. So we've got a couple
Can I ask you a question? Can I just quickly ask you a question, Andy? What did you make of Prince Harry having a HIV test today on live on Facebook? And why do you think it wasn't a DNA test?
Because they're foul.
Yeah, it might show
Even
up.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
It's really weird, isn't it? I mean, why would you have an HIV test on the royal family's Facebook page? I didn't know they had a Facebook page. I might go and find them and poke them.
Oh, that is bonk. But having an HIV test live on Facebook.
Yeah, it was recorded. It was on Facebook. He had the test on Facebook on the royal family's Facebook page. It was streamed live, and you could watch it, and you could watch the result as well. Obviously, I don't know what the result was, but because I didn't watch it at all. I just heard it on radio, and I just thought how ridiculous we have become when we've got a royal family with a Facebook page. I mean, come on, we need to find that Facebook page and give them thoughts and our input, because I'm sure this is a more democratic society that's evolving at the moment, and so I think we should let the royal family know what we think of them. Give them our input. Well, suggestion box.
Yeah, I might seek out the royal family's Facebook page, but I have a bit of a concern there. I mean, since I've not been so well, my legs are starting to look a bit like chicken legs hanging out the bottom of my shorts now. I'm really concerned. I don't want them to turn into goat legs,
Oh, good stuff. Good. Well, it just shows you how ridiculous the entire media is. It's just completely. I mean, we've got Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. We've got Boris Johnson's back in town for some reason, and he's decided to mess his hair up again. He had it all nice and neat, didn't he, before? And now he's out. He's like, whoa! He's roughed his hair up again. It's just a complete circus. And the more attention we pay to it, the more the more legitimacy we give it. And I think that we need to start removing ourselves from all that nonsense. Let them do that, their own little thing down there in London, and fart about, just ridiculous. And today I actually laid in bed and thought about the state of the world, and I actually cried. I cried like a Remainer. I was inconsolable. I was sucking my thumb. I was pulling at my testicles, because that's what I do when I'm stressed. And doing that sort of thing. I was crying like a Remainer. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely fabulous there. Thanks for that little comedy snippet at the end, Jason. You always manage to come up with something pretty off the wall, a little bit of a curveball. I'd like to say a big thank you to Mike for joining us tonight and sharing your story with us. Thanks to you, as always, Jason. Stay tuned for Dr. Rock, and thanks for listening, everyone, because without you, we'd be just talking to ourselves. We'll catch you on Tuesday. Good night.